Hi guys, hope you're all keeping well. Fishing looks like it's going well out there. Yeah, I lost the hair. I had to. It was doing my head in. I think it was doing everybody in the household's head in, so it had to go. But yeah, been some nice sole coming out recently, and that got me excited. Don't take a lot to get me excited, believe me. But the sight of a decent sole, that does it for me. So whipped out into the shed, knocked up a few rigs. And yeah, I use a lot of pulley loop rigs for my flatfish, but there are alternatives, and one of them is the 2-hook dropper, which I've got here. It's a great rig down at Chesil on the Clays, over the back of the second bar at Southbourne, anywhere where you want to punch a bait out. There's certain places along Barton and Hordle. Yes, you get the fish inside, but you do get some really nice fish out on the further bars, and this is one of the rigs I use. This rig it's a great rig. It effectively fishes one hook up and one hook below, and how it does that is by when you unclip it, the bottom hook drops away, so it's fishing below the lead. Now, this is a great rig, but a lot of the sole marks are very tidal. Soles do tend to like a fair bit of tide, and as this bumps around, it does have a habit, even with the rig tube, of picking up on the wires and causing one or two problems. So I tend to fish this when the tide isn't really pulling. But the basic rig configuration is I've got myself size 4 swivel at the top and an SRT configuration. They're caught between 2 power gun knots. I'm using Black Amnesia on the hook snoods. These rigs never see the light of day, literally. Sole primarily are darkness feeder. Yeah, so Black Amnesia, a little stop there with a sequin, and what I've got there is I've got an Innova bait anchor, and a little bit of rig tubing, neoprene rig tubing. It really doesn't slip, and below that a size 2 Kamizuri. Like I say, I like trying to catch it the big sole rather than the slips. But the reason why I've been using these, and I've found it very effective, is quite often when you get your Raptor blacks that are frozen, or them big old fresh slaps, you're not using a massive bait, so you don't really want to try and bang a whole worm on. Then quite often you're looking for distance, as I said. So when you put your lug on, you can just push it over these and it holds it, grips it in there. Now we all know the sole are little buggers for turning around and just tearing the bait off the hook, and you come back and you've had a good bite and maybe you've been a little bit premature in trying to strike it or whatever, and there's just a glob of bait on been dragged off. And yeah, this helps alleviate it. When the fish get on the bait, they've got to get over it and get that hook in its mouth before they can actually remove it from the hook. So yeah, I've been playing with them, and they were very effective last year. Even on the earth rigs I was putting 1 or 2 of these on, and yeah, that neoprene tubing really does help it grip. You can put 2 bits of neoprene tubing either side of it if you want, but yeah, that really is good. So waffled on enough about that. So coming down the rig, power gun stop knot with a bead, and got myself a Dyna clip. Again, bit of rig tubing on that one, and the same hook configuration there. And below that is another bead, a fast link, and onto me lead, which is a lovely little lead. But yeah, that is a really good rig. But like I say, the limitations are in a strong tide, even with it having the rig tubing on, the way the snood sits off the trace body itself, it can be an issue. Bit unclipped slides, but yeah. So the next rig is another very effective rig, and I'll just quickly reach up and grab it. It's this bad boy. It's basically the Gemini clip down boom system. Very, very effective. And again, people like booms for flatfish. I am not opposed to a boom or two. And yeah, obviously the benefits of this one is they clip down, and when you ping that off, they stand away from the trace body, like so. And again, this would be the standard sort of like configuration for an SRT spring, but instead of a swivel and stuff like that, you've got the booms in their place. This one's attached to a solo clip. But yeah, that's what I would use if I was starting to have issues with the 2-hook dropper and the bottom hook getting caught up on the actual lead as it's rolling round. But yeah, that's very, very effective. Very effective indeed. Moving on. Right, so the first rig is a great rig. The second rig obviously is a very, very effective rig. It carries a bit of bulk, so obviously yardage and stuff like that, you know, especially Chesil, you really do need sometimes to smash it, especially if you're unfortunate enough not to have got down there early enough to get on the clay beds that are closer in. You might need to punch it that few extra yards to find them clay beds out there. So this is the alternative to my 2-hook dropper that I've just shown you, and the Gemini boom system rig that I've just shown you, and it's an amalgamation of both. So obviously at the top end we've got a little size full swivel, and I've got a Gemini sleeve on that. Again, SRT configuration, black amnesia. I've not got none of me bait anchors on this one because this is a trial rig. I've not actually fished this rig, but I'm thinking that the thought process is behind it is going to work. And below that, as instead of the Dynaclip, I've got a Gemini clip down boom running on the rig body. Obviously I've got a power gun not above that and a bead, and yes, that runs down onto my lovely little lead. And this, when it does that slips down the rig body, and that's the way your bait should be presented below. Now that isn't going to get tangled up. That leg can roll around, bump around, drag, draw, pop and regrip, and that boom, with it standing off like that, will keep your bait away and effectively keep it hard on the bottom as well, because you've got the added bonus of the boom there. So yeah, this is an experimental rig. I think it's going to work. If you've got the components at home to knock one up, please do give it a go and give us some feedback on it, because I really do think this one could be a winner. Right, well, yeah, this is what I use when I'm looking for distance sole. But obviously sole fishing is one of these forms of fishing where they can be right under your feet. Obviously we use different rigs for that, which I'll touch on that another time. But yeah, until then guys, tight lines and look after yourselves.